Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing top 10 Kickstarters for the month. One of my favorite segments to do on the channel, and this month there are plenty of great Kickstarters to talk about. Now, before going into the top 10, I do want to discuss a couple of Kickstarters from friends, and I don't want to be biased, so I didn't add them into the top 10, but of course I wanted to give them a shout out. So first up is Falcon. I believe this is going to be launching the day this actually is posted, so if it's not posted by now, it should be probably a day or so. So this one's around to be live, hopefully as live as this video is going on. But this is from my two very, very good friends, Brant and Chris from Comic Frontline. We do a podcast every Tuesday on that channel called Comic Book Weekly. And this is Chris's comic. So it is a, plain old superhero book. If you enjoy superheroics, check this one out. It's also very much ingrained in its New York setting. So if you enjoy New York superheroes, and not just Manhattan superheroes, Brooklyn superheroes, go check this one out. And this issue has a shark, so I don't think you go wrong on that one. And some beautiful, beautiful variant covers that I can't wait for you guys to see. So go check that one out. Now, moving on to the next one, which is David's The Oz. I actually did an interview with David for Writer on Writer, I believe last week. And man, I don't even know if he needs a shout out. His Kickstarter is doing so well. Last I checked, it's at like 800 and something backers. And yeah, definitely go follow the trend and back up David's Kickstarter. It is a reimagining of Wizard of Oz, and also not his first comic, so it's not his first foray in comics. He's been published as well with Spencer and Locke and Going to the Chapel and many other books to come. So go check this one out and see his Kickstarter book and support. So that is my last honorable mention / friend shout out. So let's get into the top 10. So number 10 for me this month is Knights vs. Pirates. I just thought this was a really interesting collision / team up. This was very different genres coming together, but both really like swords. So I just thought this was a really interesting concept of, again, two very different genres coming together. And yeah, that's why I'm giving this one a shout out. Go check out Knights vs. Pirates, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is The Way Out Life of Riley. So I'm a big Archie fan. I love slice of life comics, and I feel like in the mainstream you don't get as many of them besides Archie comics. So it's kind of cool to see in Kickstarterville, I guess, that we are getting kind of more of the slice of life webcomic style storylines, and this is very Archie influenced, and just the look of it very Archie. So just to kind of get a new crew of people within that vein of storytelling looked pretty exciting. So that is number 9 for me. Moving on to number 8, a kind of completely different thing here, and I usually showcase at least one of these a month because they usually pop up once a month, and that is the business of indie comic book publishing. So this is not a comic book, but it's a piece of literature and a textbook you can utilize to learn more about the industry, and especially indie comics. It's a very different beast, even from mainstream comics, and how to get your foot in the door. I think a lot of people ask, well, how do I make comics? And the first question you should be asking is, how do I make indie comics? Because you have to showcase what you can do through your own comics before you expect to work for Marvel or DC or getting those work for hires that you might desire. You got to work on your own comics and prove that you can publish your own comics. And to do so, there's a lot to learn. So I thought this was a really interesting, good textbook for people who want to maybe get on Kickstarter and make their own comics. So moving on to number 7, also always have a horror book on here, and that is Don't Ever Blink. And this is a crazy concept. It's about this slasher, we'll call them, who sews their victims' eyelids shut. So it kind of goes into the title a bit there. Very different style of horror villain, which is kind of what got me into this. And also, I'm just a big sucker for slashers, so anytime I can see a comic with a slasher, I'm pretty much in. So yeah, this just looked interesting and up my alley. So I'm giving Don't Ever Blink number 7. Number 6 for me is For Goodness Sake, and this is volume 2, and mostly the creator really jumped out for me for this one. This is Caitlin Smith, who's also worked on a couple of other indie books as just an artist, and now we're seeing her as a writer and artist for this project. This is also volume 2, so you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. You know there's a volume 1 already, and it's 2 different personalities colliding together and forced to be with each other. So already you know there's going to be some good comedy and some good story beats there. But mostly, honestly, the artwork is really what got me to pick this for my list, and that is number 6. Next up is Next Door, and this one's been on my radar for a while. It only has 3 days left, so definitely go back it up now if you're hearing it. And yeah, this has been on my radar, like I said, and I quickly backed it up because it's from a creator who also does comic book reviews and really supports the indie community by putting the word out there with Comic Book Bookcase. If you haven't followed their website and their Twitter, go check that out. And I always love supporting people who support other people, and I think that's such an important aspect of Kickstarter, and what will make this source and this medium grow is by supporting each other and supporting indie comics and supporting the little guy, the big guy, and everyone in the middle. That's important to make not just Kickstarter grow, but comics grow in general. So definitely want to support this one. So go support Next Door. Also, the concept was very interesting, where you get to see a mixture of privilege and paranoia, all different themes I really enjoy in storytelling. So that is number 5 for me. And moving on to number 4, which is Crescent City Monsters. And the artwork is really what drew me for this one. It is a grayscale, black and white book, and it's about this sorcerer who switches bodies in New Orleans, a setting I don't feel like we get to see enough of, and it's a really interesting setting. So that's why I was really intrigued by this one. But yeah, the artwork, especially for the monster hunting, or not the monster hunting, but their weapons looked really cool, and the sorcery aspect of it looked really cool. So that is my number 4 for the list. Number 3 for me is The Pits. And also kind of just themes I really enjoy. We get to see this girl who lost her family and had trauma and tragedy towards her, who just wants revenge. And the art style, at least for the cover, reminded me of kind of like Joe Eisma, definitely showcasing the expressions really well. So again, just kind of looked up my alley overall, and simple story, but very powerful story from what the description is telling us. So number 2 for me is Tales from the Quarantine. We're still living the quarantine life, and it's been a really interesting creative world we're living in, right? I think some people have been really doing well with it, utilizing their time to be productive, and then others I think have been really struggling to find that magic and find that creativity in a world that's, not as positive right now. So, I thought this was interesting to see what type of stories people could come up with when they are in quarantine, and what type of stories we're going to see here. And anthologies are always interesting to see in Kickstarter, just to have many creators in one, and supporting many creators, and everyone working together again to create a product, especially in a time of isolation. So that is my number 2. Moving on to number 1, I think this was the obvious one, and that is Nocterra. So this is the new Scott Snyder and Tony S. Daniel book. And the reason this is number 1, A, the book looks fantastic, and B, it's kind of changing the game of Kickstarter in some ways. We're seeing a lot of bigger names jump on Kickstarter. Every month, honestly, you're seeing at least one big name or big 2 person launching their own Kickstarter. Again, during a time of COVID and not knowing where the comic book industry is going, it's a really interesting platform to see people utilize, and hopefully with the bigger names have more draw to the smaller people and the middle people and the bigger names all in one community and all in one platform. And also this was a really interesting way to pre-order, right? Usually it's just for retailers, and you say, hey, I want this book. So now you're working directly to talk to your fans or talk to your readers through Kickstarter, and utilizing this as a one form of pre-orders, and then going again into pre-orders, not forgetting the retailers, and doing it again all over again for when it does come out for Image. And I just thought this was a really interesting business model, and I'm curious to see if other creators are going to take it. Also very cool to see Scott Snyder doing other stuff, and seeing him paved the way for, a different direction of his career. And he's mentioned he's going to, back off some of the bigger DC books and do his own thing like this. And I'm really excited to see that portion of his career. And also just Tony S. Daniel being on the artwork for this is going to be outstanding. And I can't wait to just see these two work together. So that was my automatic number one this month. I'm super excited. Already backed up this one too. And just having the deals of like special editions are kind of cool too. So like one time thing every, you have 30 days to try to get your collector's edition. I think is a interesting concept, and hopefully we'll get people to the Kickstarter as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Of course, I'll have another top 10 Kickstarters next month, probably the beginning of next month. And go check out all my previous episodes as well. Go check out my Twitter and Facebook. Also, every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, which I mentioned in the beginning of the episode. And go check out my comics, like Father Like Daughter and The Color Dancer. And hopefully you guys enjoyed. Bye.